it going, people of the world? Mega Rayquazza here, also known as E-Jalen, to show you all how I made my latest costume. Now this was bigger than normal project, so this video might be a little long, but totally worth watching, so bear with me. This costume took me so long to make, because I started it in like June and finished in October, so I'm really sorry that it took so long to come to life. But now it does exist, let's show you exactly how to make it. Also, don't forget, if you like my costumes and videos, then please be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and comment if you're feeling extra nice. It really does go a long way if you take a few seconds to do so, and it helps me out an awful lot. Also, don't forget you can follow me on Facebook to see my latest work, and if you want to help bring my costumes to life, don't forget that I have a Patreon that you can check out. It has awesome rewards and neat little extras. With all that being said, let's get started and turn ourselves into the legendary beast that is Mega Rayquazza. The headpiece. It's this little bit right here. This little jiggly bit. I started out with the headpiece originally as I worked in order of things I had literally no idea how to make, which turned out to be a fair bit of this costume. At the start, I made an elastic strap that attached round my head and to the top, and then drew the core pieces of the headpiece onto paper and tested them against a wig head to see how they looked. Once I was happy with them and how they sat on my face, I drew each piece onto Warbler 4 times and once onto craft foam. I also drew the dangly parts onto thinner EVA foam ready for when they could be attached. Once I was happy with the bases and had them all drawn out, I then cut them out, sandwiched a piece of foam in between 2 pieces of Warbler, and repeated this process for each individual part. I then attached them to the elastic band I'd created just using a glue gun, and realised that they were way too heavy just to be supported by an elastic band, unless I wanted a very droopy Rayquazza, so I had to start everything from scratch. I'd attached literally everything, created an EVA band to fit the top of my head, which is this part, and added an elastic band to the back to keep it around my head but under the wig. I then had to attach each part to the EVA band with contact adhesive, my best friend, and stronger than hot glue, and then used a heat gun to shape them around my face so they sat right. Or, you know, kinda sat right. Kinda straight. I also sanded down the band and parts of the Warbler shapes just to keep them neat. Once that was done, we ended up with this. Ta-da! I was honestly expecting to have to make some form of support for the upper antenna pieces once I'd added the dangly parts, but they actually held up pretty strong. I then wrapped the EVA band in Warbler as well to support the pieces and make it flow better. Then it was time to create some detailing to hide the band. I started out with these little EVA scales that I added along the top of the headband, and then once I'd cut out a good few of them, I checked they looked okay on the headpiece and proceeded to cover the scales I'd created with Warbler to help them match the headpiece's style and to strengthen them. I then sanded around the edges to smooth them out a little, and after that I simply used contact adhesive to attach them to the band. I then decided I wanted some glam to the headpiece, so attached gems all along the headband to blend it even more into the headpiece. After that, the headpiece was done and I could work on even more parts of the costumes. Ta-da! It's all done! Pretty and jiggly. Chest piece. Time for a picture montage because my camera was charging while I made the chest piece and I was in the zone, so I didn't want to stop. I did my usual method of shaping Warbler around a bra to make an easy attachment of the breastplate. I used my dress mannequin to do this because I don't have anything else that can help me create the right shapes. Then I made a paper template of the core shapes. I wanted to build up like scales on dragons and snakes because, let's face it, Rayquazza is very much a snake-like dragon thing. And then once I was happy with the shapes, I did the same thing we always do when we use Warbler. Drew around each piece twice, draw around the shape on craft foam, and then cut them out and sandwich them together to get this. I thought this was a cool base shape, but thought it was very basic, so I detailed it up a little bit. After that, I created these cute little scales onto craft foam and stuck them around the sides of the breastplate to hide attachments of Warbler, and honestly, because it just looked cool. I also grabbed the Delta symbol, which shows when Rayquazza Mega evolved, created each of the 3 pieces on paper, then transferred that to Warbler and craft foam, sandwiched them together and stuck them onto the chest piece. After testing it fit nicely on my body, which in fact it did, it was just a simple task of painting it and adding gems to the Delta symbol to make it pop out a little more and shine in the sunlight. Before I painted it, I actually used coloured pens to mark out where each colour needed to go. It looked kinda cool like this. Looks pretty neat, eh? I'm not doing too shabby on this whole costume thing. Because all of this was built on a bra, I didn't actually have to make any extra attachments either. Nice and easy. The skirt. I've made these skirts so many times now, like when I did Knuckles, that it was a really easy task. I simply drew out each panel on paper, cut it out, and tested it on a dress mannequin to make sure they were all the right sizes. Once I was happy with that, I transferred them to 2 different fabrics. The front piece is made from this lovely green silk fabric, and the side panels are made from just standard nylon black fabric. Once I'd drawn out the base shapes, I simply cut them out and tested them on a dress mannequin. I created an elastic band that fit around my waist for these to attach onto, which I simply sewed the panels onto. After that, I needed to detail them up. I initially made more of Rayquazza's dangly pieces out of this lovely gold fabric and placed it on the centre of each panel and then just sewed it on. For the side panels, I created a little more detailing around the top and topped off each panel with a nice yellow ribbon to add a bit of colour contrast to the panels, because there is a lot of green. I originally intended to add scales to the front panel, but I ran out of time. The boots. A girl loves herself a good pair of shoes, and Rayquazza's shoes put me in a world of not knowing what the hell I was doing. I started out by making my first ever pair of boot covers, covering my boots in duct tape, then cutting the 3 pieces free and transferring these onto black lycra. I then sewed them together with a sewing machine. I've never used one of those properly before. And then I had this really cool boot cover that would fit on any shoe. I then started making the claws for the shoes. I cut out claw shapes of EVA, then heated and shaped them around the base of the foot. Once they were heated and shaped, I spray painted them white, left them to dry, and then hot glued them onto the shoe cover. I did the same for the rings that go around the feet, simply heating and shaping them around the shoe, then gluing them on. I also created a load of scales from EVA foam that I simply stuck onto the shoe with a hot glue gun. I ended up making at least 150 of these scales just to stick to one shoe. There were so many! In the end, I ended up with these shoes. Then I just spent a few hours hand painting them with green acrylic. Simple. The bracers. With the braces, I started out pretty much the same way everything I make does. I drew a template onto paper, and once I was happy with it, transferred it to my material, which was crafting foam, also known as EVA. I then cut out the foam shapes and sanded them a little before applying some contact adhesive and sticking the sides together. I heated them a little to help shape them before fully sticking them though, and once they were together I tested they fitted me properly, which thankfully they did. While those set, I templated and cut out the detail shapes. I used contact adhesive to attach the detail pieces because when I attempted it with hot glue gun in a test run, this happened. The urge to cry is so strong watching that. After that, it was just another case of simply painting them. The pauldrons. For the pauldrons, I simply templated out a triangle shape from foam, heated it with a heat gun, then shaped it around my dress mannequin's shoulders. I attached an extra spike to it, then added the dangly part at the end and painted it. The pauldrons were so awkward to get to sit right that I ended up jamming Velcro into them so they stuck on the cape and actually stayed in place. The Velcro goes between the front piece and the back bit of the cape, so everything then sits all neatly and balances each other out. The gloves. With the gloves, I started out by tracing around my hand on a piece of black lycra and cutting up 4 pieces, which I then stitched together to make a base glove. After that, I started at the very ends of the fingers, cutting out 2 of the same shape of warbler and sandwiching it together with foam in between to create claws. I did this for each finger and shaped the claws as I went along. I then cut out all the craft foam pieces for each hand, which didn't look too bad, and drew around each shape on warbler twice to create all the core elements. Then I cut them out and followed my favourite method ever. Sandwich warbler and foam together, then shape the piece around the correct part of the hand. Once all of those pieces were made, I simply glued them onto the glove. There were so many pieces to these gloves that it kind of drove me a little mad, and I'm amazed I remembered how it all went together. The cape. For the cape, I really didn't do anything special. Cut out a cape shape in green fabric, add a trimming, and then put this cool Rayquazza emblem that I painted and stitched onto the back. The emblem is actually just craft foam stuck together. Since my hair and all the other pieces cover a lot of the cape, I really didn't need anything fancy for this costume. The wig. I actually did some wig work for this costume. I started out with just a green wig, so I took a little bit of time to sew in wefts of yellow, which I stole from an old wig just to make the wig pop a little, and match with the rest of the costume. Seriously, there's so much green in this costume, I just needed something to break that up. You can see, like, here's the little bits of yellow. They look cute. Attachments. Attachments are pretty simple for this costume. It's all held together with either Velcro or buckles. The cape buckles into the pauldron, which then sticks onto the Velcro sewn onto the cape, and the front emblem pieces then connects onto the front of the pauldrons and holds everything together. All I had to make was the straps for the buckles, which I just made from getting some thick strap material and sewing it in a loop around the buckle. Then I just kind of glued them down. And in the end we ended up with this pretty cool costume. But it's missing something. I think a giant spear would make this costume pop that little bit more. The spear. It's been a while since I made a prop, and this was the most intricate one I'd tried. I decided to build up my prop out of craft board and a bamboo pole. To start with, I drew out the front parts of the spear onto a piece of paper and tested them against the bamboo. Once I was happy with the paper template, I transferred each piece to craft board 4 different times and cut them out using a Stanley knife. Once I cut out the pieces, I layered them each with a layer of wood glue and stuck them together. While these were drying, I cut out the next section. I cut out the main triangle first, and then cut out the smaller inside triangle to get the middle section of my spear. With my 3 base pieces made, I gave them a quick sanding to smooth them down, and then I was ready to attach them to the base pole. After a quick position check to make sure they worked, I crammed a load of hot glue onto each piece and stuck it to my base pole. I repeated the process for the bottom sections of the spear as well, and then I covered over the really messy pieces with shaped EVA foam so it looked nice and neat. After the base shapes were all made, I sanded for hours. Literally hours. Just sanding, and occasionally my dog would assist in the sanding, but not really help, and then I'd sand some more. I had to get it all as smooth as possible ready to be filled. I went around all the edges with poly filler so everything blended, and then I sanded again for more hours to make that smooth. After all that sanding, which felt like it lasted literally an eternity, I just had to paint the weapon and attach the dangly pieces, which were at that point on the line out to dry. I had to miss a few details on this prop due to time constraints, but it turned out pretty cool, and I'm sure I'll add them in the future. With the spear done, the whole costume is finished, and I am the broken mess of a Pokemon known as Mega Rayquazza. I learned a lot from this costume, as it was insanely difficult and time consuming to make, and I really feel like I leveled up as a cosplayer. Going from making something like Tifa Lockhart into this full armored beast is just insane, and honestly I love this costume and all it taught me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you're feeling really nice after watching all my hard work at super speed, be sure to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. I post videos about different cosplay related things, so be sure to pop back in the future for future costume making videos and more. Also, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. We did it together! Yay! Hopefully now you can make your own Mega Rayquazza and show me just how awesome you are. Or look at mine and think I'm crazy for trying to make something like that. Either. But I'm so impressed with you. Round of applause for making it to the end. Until next time guys, peace, love and positive vibes. Mwah!